So litigation is kind of out. Then third, we have public pressure. We have, perhaps the possibility that we can make them rescind to the original position. In my best case scenario, they just rescind to the original position they gave us and treat us like food additive, not adulterated. Is that going to happen? I don't know. It sounds like there's being a proposed possibility of a new license for industrial hemp and food through CDPHE, which means that there will be a legislative action that gives them a budget for this new license for industrial hemp food manufacturing and wholesale. And there will be criteria and regulations around that, and a fee, of course, but it won't exactly be the same as our food wholesale manufacturing license right now. And of course, that's all in discussion right now. So this is why we're here to meet. I was hoping that we could get some insight by the different members here of what may be the most comfortable direction, and I'll be right there, Tim. And then answer any more questions about maybe something I've left out, because I've been eating and breathing this for like 2 months now, so sometimes I roll over some of the info. I know Zev with National Hemp Association also wanted to relay some information about the meeting I mentioned yesterday. But let me answer your question. Okay, so the question was, what would be the purpose or the difference of creating like a different license for industrial hemp? Okay, so right now the CDPHE's Division of Manufacturing and Wholesale has been federally funded for this whole time, many years. It's kind of like a partnership with the federal government. And they have been federally funded. I believe it was just the last year or so that they have denied some of that federal funding and are starting to transition into their own state independent agency in a sense without federal regulation. So, I guess the point is two things from what I'm gathering. One is so they can have a budget to deal with it, because it's extra workload all of a sudden. And then two, I think it has to do with CBD. How do we keep consumers safe? I mean, this is a lot about consumer safety. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen going on right now. There's a lot of mislabeling. There's not any kind of manufacturing quality controls, really. It's almost the Wild West with CBD right now. So I think a lot of it does have to do with consumer protection in the long run. But I don't necessarily agree with that separate license yet either. Zev? So yeah, adulterated, I put two things for reference on page 1. Let's see. Okay, page 1 at the bottom. I put adulterated ingredients, and in parentheses means, oh, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't state that. I just linked to it in the Colorado Pure Food and Drug Act. So I did bring that with me and I can look that up. But if you go to the last page, which is the adulterated food, this actually is only one section, and I highlighted this because there's an exception to the federal definition of adulterated, which may help us in the end. The exception is substances that are not added substances. Such foods shall not be considered adulterated. So the reason why I noted that is because my original letter, I had put specifically that all our cannabinoids that we were concentrating and extracting were naturally occurring, and we were not isolating or separating compounds apart through our concentration or extraction. It was all naturally occurring. So I was wondering if this federal exemption might work in our favor somehow. Yeah. Okay, let's see. There is some handouts. Not everyone got, because I only made a few copies, but it was like page 1, 2, 15, 20, and 26. Pull that out if you can. Not everybody got a copy because I only made so many. It was a separate attachment. This is part of our Colorado Food and Drugs Act that I had just copied specific pages from. And let's see, and I can read some. Okay, so in our Colorado Food and Drugs Act, this was the first thing I started studying. And there's a section in here that talks about adulterated products and that our state has the power to adopt, amend, or repeal regulations upon its own motion, including food additives, which was interesting because I was like, well, maybe you guys have the power just to do this right now without any separate license or confirmation from feds or whatever. So as I studied our own law, I was trying to discern it. I did get very concerned on page 20 in our Colorado Food and Drugs Act. There is the word cannabis and marijuana in our Colorado Food and Drugs Act. Why is this a concern? In Colorado, we regulate hemp and marijuana separately by those definitions, by those specific terms. When we lump them together in the word cannabis, it means both hemp and marijuana. So in our Colorado Food and Drugs Act, whether anyone's noticed or not yet, we do have the word marijuana and cannabis considered not acceptable ingredients. So that is kind of another.
How old is that? Where was
This, it says CSR 1973. I know, I was born in 78. On page 26, there's a number 4, and it says that, basically it says that our state can adopt food additive regulations without federal interference necessarily. Now, interpretations are always different. I'm not a lawyer here, but as I read it, it's telling me that we have power within our own state through CDPHE to do something without necessarily it going overboard or waiting for legislative action. So these things have all been proposed